everyone.
Hey everyone.
Hi everyone. Welcome to Footy Talks.
Footy Talks.
Footy Talks, presented by Powerade. We are live with your Thursday footy fix.
How you guys doing? Can you hear me?
Hey everybody, welcome to Footy Talks, a festive Footy Talks to wrap up the year, the 35th show of this incredible 2020. Luke and KJ with you. Unfortunately, Stevie can't be here today because he couldn't find a Santa hat, and it's mandatory in today's show, KJ, right? So just me and you, but we have got a great guest coming on. Look, we found there was one aging former Toronto FC central defender that everybody likes who couldn't be with us today. So we thought we'd go and find another aging former Toronto FC central defender who actually still plays and is pretty good.
Yeah.
So Drew Moor is going to be with us a little later on in the show. I'm really looking forward to talking to him to wrap up what's been an incredible year.
Yeah, it should be fun. As you said, we need that centre-back solidity in our show today. So we're going to go Drew. And to be fair, I don't think, and I'll speak for the TFC fans, I don't think the year would have been complete if we didn't have Drew on. Over the year, we've told a lot of stories about a lot of TFC alumni, so to speak. And, you know, people have loved us talking to Javinko and Vasquez and many others. But I think there was that one guy missing. And we'll talk about that with him later, about having Drew Moor on the show, because he is a fan favorite and quite rightly so. And also one of the greatest human beings you're ever going to meet in MLS.
Footy Talks presented, as always, by Powerade. Great to have you with us. Do let us know wherever you are. If you're with us on the live show, we'll give a few shout-outs today. And if you're into KJ's quiz, then stand by for the last half of the show, because KJ's quiz has been an annual thing that he's done over the last however many years, KJ.
Yeah.
And we're going to bring you some questions today. Not too taxing, I hope.
No, you can do these, Luke.
I probably can't. I can probably try, but
it's not that difficult. Well, either get your pen. I was going to say go grab a pen and piece of paper, everyone, or just get your phone and your notes. But either way, we'll go through it later after Drew's finished. There's about 15 questions. I'll need about 20 minutes. No writing in the chat if you can avoid the answers, and I'll go through the questions. You can play at home, and then I'll give you the answers afterwards, and we'll see how many you get out of 30. But my money's on a good score for you, Juan, and I think you could do this. And
okay, well, we'll see.
Karen, by the way,
Karen's in the snowy St. Catharines. I saw on the news the Golden Horseshoe there. We're in the better part of the Golden Horseshoe here in Markham, where the grass is still green right now this morning. You having trouble over there, KJ?
No, just a light dust here in Burlington. So it's not too bad, actually. Not too bad at all. I've seen a lot of my friends post pictures in the United States who are working in the ESPN area. They've got a full snow, so they already guaranteed a white Christmas, because that's another 8 days away. So they've got their white Christmas, but no white Christmas for us yet. But thanks for all the comments coming in. It's honestly been wonderful. Here we are at the end of the year, and MLS Cup has happened, and who knew we were going to get there? And we've had that. It's been wonderful to talk to you every week, and so here we go for one more show for the year.
Yeah, we went back. We mentioned this sometime in the summer, but it was the middle of March, and this year. We were supposed to, in combination with TFC, do some stage shows this year. It was something that we'd worked on in the offseason. We'd agreed with Toronto FC, whereby it's that long ago that I'm trying to remember how many it was, but I think it was going to be before every TFC home game of the season.
That's right.
We would have done a stage show. We would have had a player with us. The first one was even booked, I think, wasn't it? We were going to go to Scarborough, and Liam Fraser was going to be there. And then all of a sudden, everything came off the rails. So this was born out of that. And 2 or 3 weeks later, started for a couple of weeks on a Sunday night before we moved to Thursdays. Started with just the three of us with no guests, and then we had some guests come in, some great insight from TFC players over the course of the year. Got to know them a little bit better, especially during the lockdown. It was great to have some conversations about what they were doing as well. But you mentioned a couple of my favorites. We went right back at the start, and TFC was doing online the TFC Game of the Week, and we would have some people come in to talk about that. And when we heard from Sebastian Javinko and Victor Vasquez, they were just, there are some iconic players with every club around the world, and they are two that forever will be linked with Toronto FC and what they were able to achieve. And it was just great catching up over the year with some players past and present as well, and some people from around the game, the likes of Jim Curtin or Brian Smetzer, who were on a couple of times, who we were able to give people a bit of an insight into some of the other personalities within Major League Soccer and across the league.
Yeah, great points. It's tough for me because we're just providing the content. But I will say, I do think, again, people can put it in the chat, but I think the show's so important for the country and in Canada. I think any of these kind of conversations that we're having, and there's some out there already that some people do, even with Footy Talks, Waking the Red guys do them, and obviously the guys in the States and MLS, and to have those conversations on days like Thursdays about soccer. And it's not just, please join us next week for the game, and we'll see you again next week for the game. And constantly, people need these conversations and insight. And I also think, as you said, it's nice that people tune in to listen to us, but those guys are the stories. Those guys are the guys who tell the stories. And people like Yvonne right here who's sent a message is so supportive, and we really appreciate it. But we'll keep looking for Stevie. We are a bit concerned about him. My point being is that it brings those people closer to the fans, and the fans closer to those players. And and Michael, great to see you. Thanks for joining us. You do a great job. But I think ultimately those players have missed the connection with the fan base this season. And for a little short time on a 15 minutes, yes, they were talking to us, but they were talking to the fan base, and that gave them a moment. These fans that join us, whether you're a TFC fan or anywhere else, there's a connection that they have with this group that's been lost, sadly, in this country this year, in something we never would have imagined. And, this country is doing wonderful strides to make sure that the future is bright and safe for all of us. The same cannot be said about some other countries, but the price that we've had to pay for that is an inability to go and connect with these players and these clubs on a weekly basis live. And I say we as everybody, fans, media, and everyone. And so at least this show has brought a little bit of a glimpse for that every week, for them to connect with them and talk to them and the players. The guests that we've had on have not just come on because they had to come on, because that was the case. They came on because they wanted to come on and share stories and share insight into big moments. And 2020 has not just been about on the field. It's been about the enormous battles that we're dealing with on and off the field. And, what MLS has done a great job with that. So, yeah, it's been an absolute privilege, mate. It's been great to chat with everybody, and long may it continue.
The Major League Soccer season wrapped up with MLS Cup last week. Before we get into just chatting with Drew Moor in the next 5 minutes or so, let's just talk about what happened last weekend with Columbus Crew winning. Columbus Crew dominating against Seattle, winning MLS Cup. Lucas Zelarayan with one of the performances of all time in MLS Cup. Let's get to the Powerade power play of the game, because it is Lucas Zelarayan's third goal from that MLS Cup as Columbus were able to win it. Just put the cherry on top, didn't it, from Columbus, and the performance from both him and his team on the night.
Yes, it certainly did. It was the Lucas Zelarayan final, and you can see they were just a bit better than Seattle in every area. They wanted it more. The desire was there right away, and you've got a player like that. It's a wonderful goal when you look at it in isolation for anything. Ultimately pulling it across left foot, strike top corner. But for it to put that cherry on top and just say at that point they knew they won the cup. I like those moments. I love seeing people win things. It's what I gravitate to sport for. I'm a big sports fan. I watch a lot of other sports, and we've seen it this year. Thankfully, with MLB and NBA being able to do it, the NHL, what a wonderful sports that was this year, being able to see the Lightning rightly lift the Stanley Cup. I'm a big motorsport fan, and we've seen Hamilton do it, and Joan Mir in MotoGP and others. And for me, that moment when Columbus scored that goal, they knew they'd won. And that's really unique and special. We haven't had a lot of those moments in finals, in major finals.
It's the Victor Vasquez moment.
It is the Victor Vasquez moment, Luke. You're right. And just to put a cherry on this whole chat, we've had Greg Vanny talk about that on this show this year, and Victor Vasquez about that moment that when he scored, you knew. A lot of MLS finals over the last year, most of them have been decided by one goal. You don't know you've won until that whistle reaches that referee's mouth and he blows on it. And that moment, I think we knew. Well, we did know at that point. We probably knew before that, but 3-0 with 10 minutes to go, that was it. it was you and I go turn on our cameras and do a hit for Sports Center now. So,
let people into the secrets. Yeah, the post-game Sports Center hit. Fortunately, I was a little bit concerned because there was a chance that this would go right to extra time or to penalties, and we would have to turn it around and be on within 5 minutes live from, for me, what is my back bedroom here. And like with kids potentially waking up, screaming in the background, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with that Lucas Zelarayan third goal, by the 82nd minute, we were able to record something and get it in the bag with no. I don't want to be that YouTube, the YouTube sends the clip when the kid comes running into the room or something like that while you're live on television. So I've managed to avoid that all year so far. So I was quite happy with that third goal, but I was happy for Columbus as well, KJ. I went in thinking that Seattle would win it. I think a lot of people did. I thought their experience. I thought maybe Brian Smetzer now, looking back, he's got some criticism for the side that he picked in terms of not bringing in those players that had been there and done it before and being maybe a little too faithful to the players that had got him there earlier in the playoffs.
Right.
But Columbus to come out and play the way they did, and for Zelarayan, the man that they had spent a lot of money on, a club record transfer to come and perform the way he did and win that final for them amongst everything else. With a club that 2 years ago was maybe not even going to be there in Columbus, and chatting to both Caleb Porter and Jonathan Mensah in the build-up to the game. Mensah talking about that 2015 Eastern Conference final against TFC. I said to him about that game where Josie Altidore scored. It was the two legs. It was a tight 0-0 in Columbus. Wasn't much between those teams. And I said I remembered going to Columbus for that first leg when Altidore and Javinko were suspended. And all the talk was about, would this team be gone? And Columbus didn't know where those players, when they went into that Eastern Conference final, didn't know if they would be still in Columbus, would be moving to Austin, would have jobs, would not have jobs, people around the club, the fans. And to see where that has come since then to now, and over the last 2 years of the new ownership, it was in the end, especially with a new stadium coming, a pretty special story for Columbus. I was pleased in the end that they were the winners and that they did it in that manner.
Yeah, I agree with you. They were beyond precarious in terms of their livelihoods in MLS. And when we left there, I think was it in 2017. I think it was. There was a lot of rumors about what was going to happen there, and they played TFC, and then we've both spent a lot of time there. Done a lot of games there, called a lot of games there, playoff games, TFC, playoff games, Montreal. No, it's not an elite level stadium. It's not an elite level franchise, but not everybody needs to be the same. It's important that everybody's different and has an identity and a story. Their story is organic. Their story has come from the beginnings of MLS that you cannot just tear apart. History is important in everything, and developing what you've got. There's a quaintness about going there, and I'm delighted that the franchise is alive and well, and I'm delighted that they can get a new stadium and move forward. And Tim Bezbachenko, the TFC connection, has played a big part on that. Pat Arnstad, the technical director, the Canadian as well. So for me, they went out and got Zelarayan. They understood they had to get a difference maker. And it was absolutely wonderful to see them continue to step on the gas and go forward and win the game. As I said in our MLS on TSN here, I think the home advantage played a difference. I did feel for Seattle a little bit. If they'd have played their makeup game against Colorado, we'll get to that with Drew in a second, and then won that game, they'd have been hosting. So it was that close in terms of the tiebreaker between them. Seattle, for me, are a team that didn't perform in the first half of MLS Cups, have set a standard this year again in some games that is unmatched and unrivaled. Yes, you evaluate them at the end, and maybe Brian, the people can say that he made mistakes. Your weaknesses can be found out in finals, but I still think that is a remarkable franchise of what they've accomplished over the last few years, and they deserve their reputation as being the best team in this era of MLS.
And I was pleased for you as well as a Columbus fan there. The picture of you with the mascot. I don't even know his name, to be honest with you.
I don't either, actually. No.
You didn't switch names? He's got that picture on his wall as well, the day that he had a picture with Christian Jack. Footy Talks presented by Powerade. Delighted to say we're joined now by a Toronto FC legend, someone who won MLS Cup in 2017. Drew Moor, still playing now with Colorado Rapids and still going on for another year as well. Great to see you, Drew. Thanks for being with us today. You didn't get the memo about the Santa hat, but we'll let you off on that one. We said earlier in the show, Caldwell is usually with us, but we couldn't find him today. So we had to find someone who was a better Toronto FC central defender and it was still able to play and kick the ball around. So you fit that category pretty well.
I hope Stevie doesn't come back and watch this.
Oh, I'm sure he's watching. It also bookends for us what's been a fantastic year. We told the story earlier about how this pivoted from what was supposed to be a stage show with TFC players joining us throughout the season to promote home games. And then it became a regular online thing every week. And we had people like Sebastian Giovinco join us, Victor Vasquez, current players telling stories of the past as well when there was nothing happening during March, April, and May. So it's perfect that we get to cap it off with you, Drew. I think the first thing that TFC fans would want to know is, how are you? How's your family? What's the year been like for you? It's just great to see you again.
Thanks, Luke. I appreciate it. And KJ as well. It's great to be here. I miss you guys. It's been it's been over a year now, hasn't it? So it's good to be on with you guys, and hope you guys are doing well. Hope the families are all good and stuff. We're great. It's been a crazy year for everybody on the face of this planet, and so we try to keep it in perspective. We've had some inconveniences, but for the most part, my family, my wife Shelby, my boys Joey and Ryan are safe and healthy, and happy to be back in Colorado. We've had a good year. We're in a good place, so we can't complain too much about the inconveniences that have been thrown all of our way. There's certainly people that are dealing with a lot worse right now, so we're all good, man.
Great to hear your voice again, Drew. About next year, I guess, before we look back on this year, some breaking news over the last few days in terms of you returning whenever those things come out. And I'm always researching. Is he going to get the new deal? I was so happy.
Never in doubt.
Never in doubt. But at the same time, it puts a smile on my face to know that they took care of you. And I know how much you love playing the game. I want to talk about that first, your genuine passion for doing what you love and what you're so good at. You must be thrilled to know that you can get back on the pitch again for a full season next year.
Yeah, it's awesome. In these kind of uncertain times, you never know. I'm certainly not. I'm closer to the end of my career than I am the start of my career. And so to be, I think, with an organization that has shown a lot of faith in me in both of my stints here with the Rapids. To have them want me on for at least one more year is huge for me, because I do love the game. And, I woke up every morning this year, my 16th season, just with still that burning desire to go and compete and to play and to try to make myself better, to try to make my teammates better, to do everything I can for my team and for this organization and for this league. Because I still have that in me. I still have that desire. And I don't know if that's something that will ever go away, but it certainly hasn't yet. And so to continue to be a player, I don't think soccer is something I'll ever go away from, but to continue to be a player in this league for at least one more year. I would play for another 250 years if I was able to, but for just one more year at least, my family and I are so excited.
And it's almost like Toronto FC Rockies out there, isn't it? You may as well, with Robin Fraser and Benazet and Beitashour, it's like, you've got some friendly faces around there, people that TFC fans will know. But I think from afar, we've been, Robin Fraser's always a very impressive character when he was assistant here to Greg Vanney and part of the team that obviously was so successful with TFC. You always thought that when he got that chance, he would be able to take it. And he's from afar, it seems as like he's really hit the ground running in his head coaching career there in Colorado.
Robin's been great. Obviously somebody that I've known for a long time now. I played my first year in the league as a player was his, I think, last or second to last season as a player. So I've known him for a long time. He knows the league extremely well, both as a head coach and as an assistant coach. Over the course of the past 15, 16 years. And he knows his players extremely well. I think he's a player's coach in that, he lets, he gives the players some freedoms. He knows what he has in different positions. But he's the kind of coach that you really want to play for. You really want to win for, you're not just playing for yourself or for your teammates on the field. You feel like you're playing for the coach as well and the coaching staff. And that's not an easy thing for some coaches. I feel like I've had some coaches where that's not the case. Certainly a guy like Robin, a guy like, Greg Vanny for the 4 years previously when I was with TFC, these are the kind of coaches that you want to go to battle for. And Robin, like I said, knows the league well, knows his players well. And, I think has done such a good job here with the Rapids.
Drew, you talk about him giving you the freedom there and being a player's coach and going out there and doing it. Wonder if you could take us in the mind of a professional athlete in 2020 and what that was like every day with different battles and challenges that came up, and maybe just share with some of our listeners and viewers. I'm sure I certainly would love to hear this about how much faith has helped you get through this as well, because your positivity is so contagious whenever you're around people.
Yeah, 2020 from a soccer standpoint, much less a life standpoint, which everybody had different battles in 2020. I don't want to just say that professional soccer players were affected by this, because that's far from the case, obviously. But I think the biggest battle as a professional soccer player was just staying mentally strong through everything, the ups and the downs, we're going to be training today. 2 hours later, no, we're not going to be training today. We have a game tomorrow. 30 minutes later, no, we don't have a game tomorrow. Hey, by the way, every day you're going to get something shoved up your nose. Your kids, their school is going to be closed for a month and a half. All these things, it's stuff that we're not used to dealing with. Professional athletes I feel like all people are creatures of habit, but I feel like professional athletes especially, they're creatures of habit. They're used to waking up at a certain time, eating at a certain time, training at a certain time, and that all went out the window this year. And so I feel like you had to stay so mentally strong and mentally prepared to just kind of, adapt on the fly. And I do think the Rapids did a good job, and we dealt with our own outbreak, within our organization in October, and that threw us for another, fun little ride. And I look at the Canadian teams, TFC, Montreal, and Vancouver. They have to leave home for months at a time, and I think just you usually have to be mentally strong as a professional athlete. But this year, like everybody, even more so, if you were able to just kind of adapt and stay mentally strong, then you gave yourself the best chance to succeed on the field.
And weren't you at one point, did you actually coach the team in training for a few days? Is that true or just rumor?
Yeah, kind of. So when our outbreak started within our organization, Robin called me one night, and he said, and this was before I knew that some of the coaches had tested positive, because I think they had earlier that day. And he said, how are you feeling? And I said, oh, I feel fine. And he said, how do you feel about coaching the team this week? And I was just like, no, because I knew, maybe it had started to spread a little bit. And so, yeah, Robin had faith in me to kind of take the reins for the week in training. We were without all of our coaches. All of our first team coaches, for the most part, had tested positive, and so they had to isolate. And so we had a couple of the academy coaches come up to, really kind of run things. But myself and our captain, Jack Price, and guys like Clint Irwin and Diego Rubio, we were the main voices in training, because that's who Robin trusted most, because we had been around all season and we knew what we were trying to achieve. And I was lined up to coach a game in Portland if obviously we continued to have some positive tests. And so we had to cancel that game and, a couple after that. But I was willing and ready to take the reins and also have to be available just in case, some crazy things happened during the match as well. But it was an interesting week, a fun week. But we're all probably lucky it didn't come down to me actually having to coach a game.
One day, I say, if and when that happens again, and I know you'll always, whenever your playing days are over, and not hopefully soon, I know you'll always give back to the game. If and when that happens, I guess, is it a moment where you just take on all your influences during your career, Drew? And is I guess for our TFC viewers, and there's so many all around the world today, is that a lot of it with Greg Vanny, as he's obviously just finished with TFC? What kind of lasting impression did he make on you?
Greg's amazing. I know, I hope, and I believe the majority of TFC fans appreciate what Greg did there, because it was pretty unbelievable and monumental. But I know Greg extremely well as a friend, more so than a coach. And he's just such an unbelievable guy. He's a great father. He's a great husband. I don't understand how he finds time for his 4 kids, his, I think, 2 dogs now, and his wife and his extended family. And you learn a lot from being around a guy like that, and how you manage your time, how you manage your emotions, your attitude. He's just so even keel. And he's the same guy he was when he played. Just, doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, but you respect a voice like that, because he'd been around, he'd been in Europe, he'd been in MLS, he'd won championships. And now as a coach, he's won so many trophies. And, hopefully he lands in a good spot. I'm sure he will. But yeah, I learn a lot from a guy like Greg Vanney. And even in my, couple days, in charge at training for that week, you realize your voice when you've been around for a little bit. I feel like the younger guys already respected my voice as a player, as a teammate. But then when you kind of, fill in the coach's role for a couple of days, you realize your voice really does mean something. And so you hope you have something positive and insightful to share, because people start to listen when you've been around for a little bit.
It's funny you mentioned that, because being around for a little bit, because in the chat here, we've got one person called you the TFC dad, somebody else Uncle Drew, and somebody else said, "Hey, Grandpa." So it's like, I know that was sort of an ongoing joke between the club on social media as well. But you were that person that a lot of people within the locker room looked up to, and some of the younger kids coming through. Just to switch it to something we talked about a little earlier on in the show, we showed Lucas Zelarayan's 3rd goal from MLS Cup at the weekend. And we talked with Victor Vasquez a little earlier in the year, and with Greg Vanney as well, who said it was quite a poignant moment for him, given what had gone on that year with his family as well, losing his mom. That moment when Victor Vasquez scored in 2017 is a moment that Zelarayan had with the 3rd goal at the weekend, when you know that you've won the cup. When and KJ mentioned, finals are usually pretty tight. Sometimes it's not till that whistle goes that you get the chance to enjoy it and savor it. But Vasquez scores, it's 2-0. BMO Field's going crazy. You have the chance to look around. Is that something that still sticks with you?
That'll stick with me for the rest of my life. I still go back, probably at least a couple times a month and watch highlights of that specific goal, because you could play an entire career, you could go an entire lifetime and not have one of those moments where it's done. You're deep into injury time already. In fact, we might have even been beyond the time that was allowed, or very close to it. And to have essentially a game-winning goal like that, I think you saw from our celebrations, it was relief, it was joy. The fans are you can't even hear yourself think, because my family's in the stands. It's unbelievable, and I could only imagine, the Zelarayan and the crew players felt the same way, because the game's out of reach at that point. And so to be able to share that with TFC and the players and the coaches and the fans and the entire organization, it kind of, it's like justified. I didn't need justification of going to TFC as a free agent. I wanted to go there. I wanted to be there. But to have a moment like that is something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. And I know my family will. And you want to do it again. You want to repeat those moments if possible.
Well, you can't say this, Drew, because I know you won't, but you were one of the reasons why they won it. And ultimately, they went out and got players like you to turn around that franchise. And when you have a moment like that, even though you obviously came after the difficulties that were there, do you still look back as a journey, not just the final destination, about how you got there? I'm sure there are other games that come into mind and relationships that mold you as a team to get to that final moment, surely.
Yeah, I think my wife just asked me yesterday. I forgot what we were doing. I think we were looking at pictures or something, where we've been hanging up some pictures on our wall here. Finally, we've only been here for 11 months, but you know how it goes.
It's been a difficult year.
It has, yeah, it has. She said, "Aren't you so happy you went to TFC?" And I, of course. And again, to have moments like we did in 2017, but the journey was amazing. It was an organization that took such good care of us in a pivotal moment of our lives as well. We had our first kids, or our only kids, at least our plan to have our only kid. My wife Shelby was 5 months pregnant when we got to Toronto, and that's a big moment. That's a stressful time. And Toronto's this big, crazy, kind of overwhelming place for us when we first moved there. And to have the organization and the people a part of it and my teammates to support us and to help us through that, not to mention the team that we were on the field. It was such an incredible journey. I just wish from a personal standpoint that my play in 2018 and 2019 had been more like what it was in 2016 and 2017. But I have no regrets about that at all. I also dealt with some injuries, but what a special organization and a special place that we talk about every single day and probably will for the rest of our lives as well.
A special team as well. Are there some characters on that team? Lyle asks, who do you miss playing with on TFC the most?
Oh man, that's a good question. There's a handful of guys. I played with some of the best players that this league has ever seen. And you look at Sebastian Giovinco and Josie Altidore and Victor Vasquez. And I played with some incredible center back partners as well. I think the player that I miss playing with most is Michael Bradley, because he made my job so easy. Everybody thinks I was so good in 2016 and 2017. How could I not be? I had this guy in front of me that cleaned up everything. I could literally give the ball into his feet when he had 4 guys climbing on him, and he would take care of it, And so, and I also became very close with Michael Bradley as well. He and I still text daily and talk shop and stuff. And then you look at guys like Chris Mavinga and Nick Haglund and Eric Zavaleta and Alex Bono and Justin Morrow. I mean, the list could go on and on. And these are guys that again, I still talk to quite regularly. And a lot of special moments with those guys were played out on the field.
On those special moments, you talk about the players, Drew. We talked about 2017 Cup final. Is there any other games that you'll always find yourself thinking about more than others, certain rivalries or certain finals or playoff games or ones that even defined you? I know when I asked Michael that question, he pointed right to the Philadelphia game that time in the first playoff win, about how enormous that was. And is there anything for you that you think about more than others?
I think, then this is going to sound like the obvious one. I think the series against Montreal after that Philadelphia game in 2016 was just the most epic playoff series ever. I know you guys were very close to that as well. The Philadelphia game, I think, was more for the guys that had been there the year before, that had gone through the tough playoff loss in Montreal, to get that first playoff victory in club, franchise history against Philadelphia was huge as well. And I'll point to a game that I think kind of gets forgotten, is the Canadian Championship final in 2017, the second leg at home to Montreal, where they score first to take the 2-1 aggregate lead. And then Seba does his thing to get us back into the game. And then I think it was Patrice Bernier gets sent off on kind of a questionable card. I'll admit it. It probably shouldn't have been a red card. And then we go on to win it. And I just remember the atmosphere of that game for like a middle of June game was unbelievable. You don't usually get atmospheres like that. I mean, the atmosphere at BMO is always incredible for me. And you can go some other places in the middle of summer and get very good atmospheres. But I just remember when Seba scored the game-winning goal, the roof came off that place. And it was almost as loud as that I'd ever heard BMO before. And so I like to go back and watch the highlights of that game as well. But we had certainly some special moments at BMO. And I remember before I went, I'd watched the highlight of Giovinco's goal against the Red Bulls in 2015 that sent them to the playoffs. And I was just like, what an incredible, goal and night that would be to be a part of something like that, and to be able to live some of those moments in the next 4 years for myself personally was unbelievable.
Drew, really appreciate you giving us the time today to be with us, to catch up with you. It's been fantastic to hear how you're doing and to see you once again. Hope you got any plans for the off season? Is it just a quiet time, or are you going to be reading the coaching manuals for when you start taking pre-season?
Yeah, I've got to keep the, I don't know if, COVID's not going away anytime soon, unfortunately. So you never know. But no, we're going to lay pretty low for the off season. We've been able to see some family, even during this crazy season for the past year or so. We might steal away for a little bit. But for the most part, we want to stay and enjoy Christmas here, just with the family, and get ready for 2021. I'm playing again, so I need to be sure I'm fit and ready to go.
No doubt about that. Well, let me finish just by saying this year, we just said it before you came on, we've had some tremendous guests and many great guests from TFC in the past. We had Victor on and Seba and many others. And as I said before you came on, it wouldn't have been right if we'd gone throughout the entire year without having you on. So it's an absolute delight to have you on. And God bless, good wishes to you and your family for this holiday and Christmas season as well, Drew. It's been great. Thanks, KJ. Thanks, Luke. I really appreciate it. Great to see you guys. We miss Toronto every single day, and we miss faces like your guys. Next time I'll wear my antlers.
Hey, which is colder though? Which is colder?
Oh, Toronto. That's a good answer.
It can cold here, but it's nothing like that wind coming off of Lake Ontario. I'll tell you that much.
Appreciate your time. All the best, Drew.
Thanks again, Drew.
Have a good one. Happy holidays.
You too.
Drew Moor with us on Footy Talks Live, presented by Powerade, our 44th guest of the year on what is our 35th and final show of 2020.
What a guy.
Great to catch up with Drew. And, that was one of the defining things, I think, of the early days of the pandemic back in March, April, and May. There was no sports, and yet there were those times when it doesn't make up for the live, fresh sports. But the situation that we were all in, being able to see, I think it was TSN showed the MLS Cup run or the playoffs every night of the week, and then the Champions League run the night after. You don't often in the busy life get the chance to sit down and watch past games and truly appreciate what happens. And then even now, a few weeks ago, the TFC Montreal series was on, and you see the fans in the stands and what it used to be like. And it was just great, even in those times earlier on this year, to be able to look back on some great moments.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it's difficult sometimes in life to spend the time reflecting. Athletes will tell you all the time that they struggle to do that. It's not take next game at a time and focus and concentrate. And the lockdown and the suspension of all sports allowed a lot more time for reflection in life. And I think particularly on this show, where we focus a lot on Toronto FC and the fan base that come on this show and so loyal to us every week, have been through some wonderful moments over the last 5 to 6 seasons. And those moments when they needed to be exemplified and have that time to reflect. And I think they still need to do that. I know they're in the middle of what they hope is still that generation, albeit one that's in transition.
Do you think it is? Do you think it is, KJ?
I think that's still in that kind of
the same generation, or is this now like a full stop and what comes next is something completely different?
I think it's a really good question. I think that they have to find the balance. And I think what they're trying to do is that when we talk to these players and they say they rely on the times when you talk to Jonathan Osorio, Marky Delgado, and Michael Bradley, and they talk about those times and how that helps them get through these matches going forward, we have to say that, yes, they're still kind of in that moment, while understanding that the absolute need to replenish and requirement of more and more fresh players. So I think when you've got Bradley, Osorio, and Delgado, and Mavinga still there, and Altidore still there for now, and whatever else moves forward, that I will think that they're not at the end of that, albeit trying to continue that pathway going forward, sustain success a little bit the way that Real Madrid are trying to do right now, in terms of understanding that they've been through the heights, and those heights are difficult to go, but it's not a complete teardown and let's go again in 6 or 7 years. It's continuing to try and rise and go forward. So I do think there'll be something to that. But as I said, the reflection is important. And to look back on those, great that we're able to show those. And as I've said, I hope to maybe one day write a book about a lot of those games, because I think that would be pretty important to do and retell some of those stories.
Last person we had on the show who wrote a book, it was quite a difficult interview. So if you ever write a book, can you just make sure that you can hear us when we talk to you about it?
Yeah, I will do that. I love
that clip that had been put into the intro from D-Row. Can you hear me? Yes, we could hear you. We could hear you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the first time I've done an interview with sign language and props. Yeah,
exactly.
Hero, one of MLS 25 greatest last week. If you
we wouldn't want to have him any other way.
No, exactly. If you haven't seen it, it's worth going back just to have a look at the breakdown in communication there with one of MLS's 25 greatest. We've had two of them on the show, of course, this year. In fact, three. Jeff Agus was on a little while ago as well. He was one of MLS 25 greatest. Maybe some more. I can't remember off the top, but that list, of course, was announced last week. I do want to mention to you all sorts of stuff going on in a very busy offseason. The Champions League, our season at TSN, came to an end on Tuesday night with Montreal's defeat. Or they won against Olympia of Honduras in the Champions League quarterfinal. Every time I said it on TV the other night, I had to think about what leg was this? When was it? Like, it started in March. We did have a round of 16. Then there was a quarterfinal tie. And unfortunately, they were undone at the Big O, letting 2 goals in back at the start of March, which is why ultimately the 1-0 win the other night wasn't enough to get them through. They've signed Kamal Miller. They picked him up from Austin. Austin took him in the expansion draft and then traded him to Montreal, a Canadian international there. But the big one I wanted to talk to you about was Georgi Mihailovic coming in from Chicago. He's an international player with the US, of course. He can play at number 8, number 10, can make things happen. Still very young, 22 years old. And it's not the signing that has raised eyebrows. It's what they've paid for him. And it could rise to $1 million in allocation money, with 400 the next 2 years, and then each of the next 2 years, then some also some incentives in terms of what he plays, how he plays. There have been comparisons made with allocation money paid for the likes of Nagbe or Gressel. Where are you on Montreal paying so much money for him?
I think I'm in the minority, but and I haven't been on social media very much, so maybe I'm not. I love it. I love the player. I love the signing. I love the piece in terms of putting it in a system like that. There's tremendous amount of upside. That this is not Brendan Aronson quality, but could one day be that kind of player that could go to, I don't know, random team. Maybe I'll just say Bologna. Maybe it might be a place for them. But yeah, so it's I love that they're going younger. I think it's important. I feel that they need a leader and a goal scorer, somebody from Europe who's a proven commodity that can work with Mihailovic at the top end of the pitch. I think that will be a really important thing for them. But I like Mihailovic a lot. And I know it's a lot of money, but those players that you mentioned there, he's a comparable. I mean, Gressel, okay, you didn't see the best of him this year. He's a very good player. Nagbe obviously is an elite player at this level. But you're getting a really young player here that I think that you could, if you mold properly, you could make a lot of money on in a transfer fee going forward. I think he's that good. Really good with both feet, kind of glides along the pitch a little bit in dribbling the ball as well. A little bit like Aronson, controls the ball really well. And so, yeah, it doesn't score enough potentially for me, but that can certainly help. But they do need a goal scorer with him. If he's their biggest acquisition of the offseason, I would have question marks. But as I said, I think there's more to come.
Okay, Mr. Quizmaster.
All right, let's get this.
Let's take it away. I've got my. If you've got a pen and paper, if you want
pen and paper, everybody. Here's the rules.
You don't have to. We will give you all the answers in just a few minutes' time. But with it being the festive,
let's do this.
Season-ending edition of Footy Talks Live, KJ likes to get his quiz in. First off, question number 1, because a lot of people have asked. Question number 1: what is on KJ's head?
I don't actually know. It's my son's hat.
Is it supposed to be a reindeer?
I think it is a reindeer.
Oh, yeah, the antlers.
Yeah, see, there's the reindeer there. There you go. My son actually left it at home this morning. So, to be honest, I give you all the credit. You came on before the show and you had one on. And I'm like, I can't really not have one on. Wildman's setting the trend here.
Mine's just a regular.
Yeah,
Santa hat. I'm looking for the bubble. It's on
fashion sense with Wildman. Everyone copies Wildman's fashion sense. He doesn't give himself enough credit for a Yorkshireman. He does pretty well. So as he puts his zip up. The quiz, here's the rules. We really appreciate all the comments coming down there, but don't write the answers in the comments if you don't mind, because what's going to happen, and there's a lot of you who've joined us live on these shows. It's wonderful. But we actually have people, and we appreciate them amazingly, who go back and listen to the show. some people actually have to work at 12:30 on a Wednesday, so they can't actually join us live.
It's Thursday, by the way.
Thursday, yeah, whatever day it is. It's almost a week to Christmas, so that's the greatest day. So those of you who are listening on the podcast, we thank you as well for joining us every year. We've had every week. We've had some brilliant numbers on the podcast this year.
Well, they can't see the comments anyway if they're listening on the podcast.
No, they can't. So my point being is that I'm not going to give away the answer right away.
Right. Okay.
So what it is, it's 15 questions. It's out of 30. I'll give you the questions, and you can write them down. And then right at the end, I'll give you the answers, and then you can tell us if you want how you did, or just how you didn't do. And Wildman, I think you might be all right here. You said you're worried about this, but some of these games, is it all
about 2020?
It's all what happened on 2020. Yeah,
right. I can't remember much before.
A strong TFC connection as well, and a few MLS things. So here we go. All right, number one, we'll go back to February. Who scored Toronto FC's first goal of the season? Number one, who scored Toronto FC's first goal of the season? That's your first question.
That was at San Jose, wasn't it?
Correct. Yeah, at San Jose, not the first home game. Number one, who scored Toronto's FC's first goal?
I can answer the first home game better than
it's coming up next. Don't give it away. Number two, for 2 points, who scored Toronto FC's only goal? They will get harder, by the way. Who scored Toronto FC's only goal, and who was the opponent on March the 7th? Their only home game this season in front of fans.
Okay, so that's worth 2. Was the first one only 1 point?
Correct. So who scored Toronto FC's first goal of the season? That's one answer. Number two is 2 answers. I want the goal scorer and the opponent. Who scored Toronto FC's only goal, and who was the opponent on March the 7th, when many of you joined us inside a booming BMO field, and little did we know it was the one and only game of the year. We would all be there.
That's easy, right?
Yeah. I mean, you called these games. Like, you should be.
Yeah, but I'm still struggling with the first one, even though I did call that game.
All right. Well, let's see. Number 3. There's a tournament in this 2020 called MLS is Back. How many goals did Io Akinola score at the MLS is Back tournament? How many goals did Io Akinola score at the MLS Back tournament?
By the way, that was that tournament. It was something at the time we talked about as maybe something MLS should look at doing on a more regular basis. I thought, I know some players, obviously they didn't like being away for all that time, but moving forward, I think it would be great if there was some way that they could, especially mid-season like that. We're used to a summer tournament in Euros, whatever it is. We've got the Euros coming up next year. That was one thing, watching MLS Cup on TSN, seeing those commercials for the Euros coming up was fantastic. 2020 Euros starting June 2021. But yeah, it was a great tournament.
I agree. Please bring it back.
As well, I think letting everybody see other teams across the league, and there being a reason for matches in the middle of July, like a real meaning to those games.
Exactly. Increase competitiveness, bring awareness around the league. Still the biggest one of major headaches for me in MLS's growth is how do you get people caring about other teams? That kind of does that. If they're in the same group, you have an interest of watching that game. DC versus New England was a big game for TFC purposes and plus like that. So I'm with you. I don't know whether it'll happen in 2021 because we're not here. We don't know what's going on yet. So we'll see when we get there. But even in 2022, in a World Cup year, maybe they can bring some kind of tournament there. Number 4, Josie Altidore scored 2 goals in 2020. Name the opponents. 2 goals. Who did he score against? See, these are all up Wildman's alley.
No, I've only got 1.
Oh, come on. And Josie.
Oh, I do.
Okay, there you go. The next one, if you're all screaming at me going, come on, these are easy, this one's for you. Number 5, three answers. Only 3 players this year scored more than 1 goal against Toronto FC. Only 3 players this year scored more than 1 goal against Toronto FC. Who were the 3 players? That's a tricky one. I might expect most of you to get at least one of them or 2, but so 3 players, 3 opponents this year scored multiple goals against Toronto FC.
Are you looking for the team or the player?
Player. 3 players. Yeah. I think one is relatively easy. If you want a clue, it happened in 2 of them happened in the same game. So that might help you. The other one, which didn't happen in the same game, happened in different games, is tough.
Two of them happened in the same game.
Yeah. So 3 players scored multiple goals, more than one against
Toronto. I know multiple. Thank you. 2020.
Kind of delay.
Just struggling with the question.
Give you a chance to give an answer.
I don't think I'm going to get that one. So
all right, I'll go back and review if anyone's got any questions. What I will allow you to do in the chat, if you want, is just ask for the question again later if you need it. Number 6, at MLS's back tournament, one MLS team was knocked out without scoring a goal. Who went home from MLS's back tournament without scoring a goal? One team in MLS's back did not score a goal. Number 7, worth 4 points. It's as simple as this. Name the final 4 at MLS's back.
Okay, well, by the way, now I know why Caldwell didn't come on the show today, because
Stevie's pretty good at quizzes, but if anyone knows why he's not on the show, it'd be great.
Question 7. How many times at 12:29 this year did Stevie send a message asking for the link to log on to the show?
How many shows have we done? That's
35.
There you go.
Luke forgets the Philly game. What was that all about? Oh, the Philly game. All right. Okay, that's an answer to that one.
Oh.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Number that was reference to number 5.
Okay, yeah.
All right. So we're on number 7. Name the final 4 teams at MLS is back. Number 8. This is an MLS playoff question. I'm sure many of you tuned into TSN to watch your loved or despised Montreal Impact kick off the playoffs against the New England Revolution. Who scored the dramatic 95th minute winner?
Okay, I can remember that because it's within the last 2 months. I'm good.
Who scored New England's 95th minute winner to knock out Montreal Impact? That is number 8, and that is we're halfway through. That's 15 answers. All right, we got one more MLS, and then we'll do a couple more MLS. But yeah. All right, number 9. The craziest moment in the MLS playoffs happened in Orlando. Orlando against New York City FC in one of the most brilliant moments, if you love that kind of stuff, in 2020.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, it was. It went to a penalty shootout. Everything went wrong. In the end, they didn't even know where they were adding them up. The whistle was blown, but it wasn't supposed to. A player got sent off. The goalkeeper got sent off for stepping off the line, Pedro Galese, and a player had to go in instead of him. Who was that player? Who went in net and saved the winning penalty as an outfield player to win the knockout NYCFC and win the shootout? Which player went in the net?
Did you get a bonus point for the referee being Alan Chapman? No,
you just gave it away, didn't you? So no, you don't.
Okay. By the way, after all the guests we've had, and if we do this again next year, one of the early top of the list guests, one of my regrets that we didn't get on this year is Howard Webb.
That's right. I'm with
Pro Referees, because he would be a fantastic guest as well. Know him obviously from even back home, but also from being with us. Yes, you've got the
yellow. You've got the red. Get it out, Luke. There it is.
Signed Howard Webb red card here.
There it is. See?
Yeah, there we go.
So make what you want out about that. He gave Luke the red. I don't know why, but I got the yellow. So there you go. All right.
That's the one that he was going to show in the World Cup final.
Number 10, a Premier League question. Liverpool lifted the Premier League at a very empty Anfield on a night when they beat Chelsea. By what score? Liverpool lifted the Premier League in a very empty Anfield on a night when they beat Chelsea. What was the score? There you go. That's number 10. Number 11, you need the most answers for this one. The biggest game of 2020 that most people will remember for many reasons in the men's game. Bayern Munich beat Barcelona 8-2. Bayern Munich beat Barcelona 8-2. They had 6 different goal scorers in the game. Name them.
I'm not even going to try writing that down.
Wildman's just give up. You could get one. He's like the best player in 2020 by a mile. Bayern Munich beat Barcelona 8-2. Name the 6 different goal scorers for 1 point each. And if you can name 6, you're flying here because you beat Wildman because you can't even get one. 6 different Bayern Munich players.
Remember we used to do these Thursday afternoon Europa League quizzes?
I do remember that.
And
you did all right with those.
Hey,
You might have cheated a couple of times, but you did all right in most of them. What we used to do, everybody, if you're still listening to us, thanks. We used to have Europa League Thursdays after 2 days with the Champions League, and we was pretty exhausted. So we'd watch Europa League games, and during it, we'd have quizzes to keep us going and to keep the energy level up. It was quite fun. All right, number 12, Kadisha Buchanan and Alphonso Davies won Champions Leagues this year. Wonderful memories, by the way, for Canadian soccer fans. In their finals, in their respective finals, who did they beat? We need 2 teams. Kadisha Buchanan won the Women's Champions League. Who did she beat in the final? Alphonso Davies won the Men's Champions League. Who did he beat in the final? 2 teams. That's now out of 25. 3 more questions. The Canadian men's national team actually played games in 2020. They did. They played 3 friendlies in January in California against 2 different opponents. Okay. Name the opponents.
I'm good with one, and the other one, I've mentioned this all like.
You remembered the one they've lost to. You can't remember the one they beat.
No, they beat them 4-1 twice.
They did, yeah. So
and it's either
don't give it away.
I know, but
all right. I'm going to ask for your answers on these. We're going to get Wildman's score at least. 2 teams they beat. The 2 teams they played back then. All right. One more MLS question. Vancouver Whitecaps and Montreal Impact contents. Who led both teams in minutes played this season? Which player led the Montreal Impact in minutes played this season? Which player led the Vancouver Whitecaps in minutes played this season? That's worth 2. Should be up to 29.
Okay.
And the last question is an easy one for you, everybody. In honor of a missing Scotsman, Scotland became one of 4 teams to win the playoff round to get to Euro 2020 in 2021. Name one of the other teams who won the playoff round. Any of the 3 countries will give you a point.
Okay.
Just don't write Scotland because you get nothing. All right. There's your quiz. Anybody want a question replayed before we go through it?
No, I don't know how I'll do here, but
all right, let's figure it out.
I'm aiming for a solid
all right here.
C, like a 50 to 60%.
All right.
Kind of.
Let's see what you've got. All right. Here we go. The answers. Number 1, who scored Toronto FC's first goal of the season? Luke Wildman, your answer is?
Richie Larea.
Wrong.
No.
Penalty by Alejandro Pozuelo.
Larea scored, though, in that game.
He did, the second.
So do I get half a point?
No, you don't. I mean, everybody, you can put in the comments if you want to give him half a point, but he's actually wrong.
I got the right goals, just in the wrong order. He did score.
I'm sorry. The question said first goal, not like who scored.
I thought who scored a goal in the first game of the season, no?
Who scored Toronto FC's first goal of the season?
Okay, all right, okay.
Anyway, it's a good job that you get your awards for commentating and not for memory. Pozuelo penalty, 1 out of 1. Congratulations to everybody else apart from Wildman. Who scored Toronto FC's only goal and who was the opponent on March the 7th? Now you've got these.
Achara, NYCFC.
Correct. Well done. Achara versus NYCFC. 2 out of 3 for Luke Wildman. Number 3, how many goals did Ayo Akinola score at the MLS's back tournament?
That would be 5.
5. Very good. A hat trick and a 2. Very good. 4. That's out of 4 now. Josie Altidore scored 2 goals this year. Name the opponents.
Montreal.
Correct.
And Columbus.
See? He's flying. He's flying. There we go. You're doing all right now, aren't you? Now the toughie. Only 3 players this year scored multiple goals versus Toronto FC. Let's go to the man who called them all for the answers.
Well, I got Sergio Santos, courtesy of whoever it was that
Jeffrey,
said about Philly.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Yeah, Sergio Santos is 1.
That is the only extent of my remembering on this answer.
All right, let's take your mind back. Toronto FC played Montreal Impact in MLS's back tournament and gave away 2 penalties. Who scored them both?
Oh, Ty Dare.
Correct. That's another one. Yeah. And the hardest one, happened in 2 different games, one of which was in that game every Toronto FC fan for the rest of his life will forget, the knockout game at MLS is back, and then later scored against them as well in the season, and that is Jesus Medina.
That's a good question.
Medina.
That's a good question.
Thanks, buddy. So there you go. I don't know whether I'll give you a tie there. No, I might not give you that one. We'll see. Number 6. Which team did not score a goal at MLS's back tournament, Luke?
Which team did not score a goal at MLS's back tournament is, I don't have that answer.
You do know. You know this one.
No, I don't have that one.
All right.
Give me a clue.
Dutch connection.
Oh, Cincinnati.
No,
Atlanta.
Atlanta United. Very good. Yeah, later got fired for it. Frank de Boer. Yeah, Atlanta United. All right, number 7. Name the final 4 teams that MLS is back.
Philly.
Yeah.
Orlando. I'm not the lawyer in the family. Definitely. That's not going to. Philly, Orlando.
Yes.
Portland.
Yes. Can he do it?
Was it Minnesota?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
4 out of 4. Well done. See, he plays this dumb card, but he's not that bad. All right, number 8. Who scored New England's 95th minute winner versus Montreal?
Gustavo Bo.
So you're flying here. I'm gonna have to add all this up later. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You got 12, I think, so far out of 15.
Well, I'm almost.
You're going to be going downhill now, aren't you?
Yeah.
All right. Number 9. Which you've got this one. Which Orlando goalie saved the winning penalty, even though he's an outfield player?
Schlegel.
Yes, Rodrigo Schlegel. I'm wondering how many of you guys got that one. I'm sure the more fans got it than not. Liverpool lifted the Premier League in an empty Anfield after beating Chelsea by what score?
Complete guess, 2-1.
The answer is 5-3.
I should remember that. I watched that game. I remember watching that game.
That's why I made it a question. It was a rare one. 5-3. All right. Bayern Munich beat Barcelona 8-2 in one of the most remarkable games of 2020. 6 different goal scorers. Do you have any?
No, I don't know.
Don't have any?
I thought about it, but I'd just be like, you give us the answers because I would just be.
You don't have any.
Lewandowski.
Yes. Robert Lewandowski. Give
Muller,
yes.
Assist Davies.
No Davies. It's goal scorers, mate. The other 4 are Ivan Perisic, Joshua Kimmich, Serge Gnabry, Philip Coutinho. So Luke got 2. That's not bad, mate. Kimmich, Gnabry, Coutinho, Lewandowski, Perisic, Muller. All right. Luke, you got these. Kadisha Buchanan and Alphonso Davies won the Champions League in 2020. Who did they beat in the finals?
Bayern unfortunately beat PSG.
Yes, they did.
And Lyon was Wolfsburg.
Yes, very good. Wolfsburg lost to Lyon. Bayern beat PSG.
And by the way, I actually have the Kadisha Buchanan poster up here.
That. Every credit. Tribute.
Arrived this week. You can get them online. And
Luke's just dropped his microphone on the ground, which is a little bit unfortunate for us needing the answers. It's like all year we've gone without Luke not dropping his microphone, and now he's dropped his microphone.
Good?
Yeah, you're back. You're right.
Yeah, you can get them online, and percentage goes to cost to help female coaches.
Oh, nice.
Their coaching certificates and things like that. So yeah.
Have you tweeted about it or anything? Can we find them? Where do we find them?
Let me have a look. Yeah, I did. If you look on my, I did tweet. Hold on.
All right, we'll find it.
Carry on.
All right, we'll find it. You let us know because I'd like
to get a bonus point for that.
I'd like to get involved in that. You got 2 out of 2, so I can't.
If you go on Twitter to @WSoccerCA.
WSoccerCA. There you go, everybody.
WSoccerCA. I also got they got a Jesse Fleming one as well, which I got as a surprise Christmas gift. So as long as my 9-year-old is at school today and not on his lunch hour watching, then it's still a surprise.
Just make sure he does the quiz after Christmas and then he can beat you. All right, number 13. Canadian men's national team played 3 friendlies in January versus 2 different teams.
Okay, so Iceland.
Yeah.
And then it begins with a B.
It does, yeah.
Was it Bermuda?
It was Barbados.
Barbados.
Yeah, Barbados, Luke. Not bad. Yeah. All right.
But I got the 4-1 both games.
4-1, yeah. You got the score.
So I got the score and the start of the... I think I deserve something for that.
Give over, mate.
Okay.
Even the great Alex Trebek wouldn't give you a point for that. Vancouver Whitecaps and Montreal Impact. Who led them in minutes played this year?
Okay, I'm going with Piet for the Impact.
Correct.
Because he only missed one game all season, and that was for the birth of his child.
Very good. And for the Whitecaps, who are you going with?
Adnan?
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
Ali Adnan, Wildman pulling it out. His score is impressive. All right, and you're going to get the last one. Scotland, in name of the missing Scotsman, made it to the Euro 2020 live on TSN with us next summer. We will not be wearing these. And then who joined them? Name one country. You got 3. Just give me one.
North Macedonia.
North Macedonia. Even went with the hardest one. Just a little bit of arrogance at the end from Wildman. North Macedonia, Slovakia, or Hungary would have any of them counted. Write in your comments before we go off the air your score. Wildman, I count you got 21 out of 30.
I'll take that.
That's impressive, mate.
I'll take that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And if I'd had more time and hadn't been feeling the pressure, I might have got a little bit more. If the lights, I can't perform on the biggest stage, right? When the lights are brightest.
The lights, the brightest.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was pretty good. I thought you did pretty well there.
Thanks.
So yeah, 21 out of 30 for Luke. Hope everybody enjoyed that. I'm sure there are others who beat Luke. And if you want to write in your comments what you got, that would be great. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And as we said, it wouldn't be the end of the year without a little quiz. So we just thought
always the KJ Christmas quiz has to be.
Why not, right?
Listen, it's a great way to wrap up what's been a great year. Thanks to everybody who has been with us all the way back in March and wherever you jumped on and joined us. Really appreciate you being there because it's been something as well that we've enjoyed doing. Especially those early days, that connection of us being able to keep chatting and keep talking to people while nothing else was going on was fantastic when we couldn't actually do games.
Yeah.
And then down the stretch of the season as well, it was fantastic as well. So hopefully we can be back next year and do this again. But yeah, thanks to everybody who's been involved. It's been a great year. And just something that I think has in a year when so much has not been great, for me, it's been one of the highlights to be able to be here every Thursday and to connect with everyone. Yeah,
real pleasure for me to connect with everybody as well, to continue the conversation going. Sometimes we talk about soccer, sometimes we talk about life, and that's the way, we wanted to be. Sometimes pleasure to do it with you and Stevie, to my best mates, and a pleasure for me to do it with you guys, the best in the industry, no doubt about it. Thanks to Kevin Kennedy as well, who runs the stuff, and thank you to everybody else who joined us. Merry Christmas, Carrie. Merry Christmas to everybody, and a safe and happy holidays for everyone. It's been a real treat, and before we know it, we'll be back talking about more. The one thing about this game, Luke, is that it just never takes a day or a week off, does it? So I'm sure 2021 will continue in the same way as well. We'll look forward to that.
Thanks to Powerade, and happy holidays, everybody. That was Footy Talks, the final edition of 2020. We'll see you again soon.
Merry Christmas.
Hi everyone. Welcome to Footy Talks. Footy Talks, presented by Powerade. We are live with your Thursday footy fix.
How you guys doing? Can you hear me?